Well, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Dana Morris and I'm a psychologist in the Toronto District School Board. And today I'm joined by two wonderful colleagues. We have Yvonne Bristow, an itinerant child and youth counselor, and Laura Shepard, social worker. And we're all working in the Toronto District School Board. Today, oh, is this not working? Oh, here we go. Okay, great. Today we're going to be talking to you about accessing mental health and well-being supports at school and in the community. And we hope that by the end of today's session, you'll have a better understanding of when to seek out supports and a better understanding of what supports are available and how to go ahead and access those supports if you need them. At the end of the presentation, if there's time, then we'll have an opportunity to answer your questions. And we'll also be making these slides available to you so that you'll be able to access them. Welcome to whoever just joined us. Yep. You'll be able to access the slides so that way you can click on the links to find out more about all of the resources and supports available. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is situated upon traditional territories. These territories include the Wendat, the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and the Métis Nation. I'd also like to recognize the enduring presence of Aboriginal peoples on this land.
So welcome everyone who's joining us either live in this discussion or who maybe is tuning into a recording. Just some guidelines to keep our discussion working well for everyone. Everyone is welcome to talk and participate in a way that's comfortable for them. Please know you can have your camera on or off. You can use your chat box or your microphone, whatever feels most comfortable for you today. Please mute your mic when you're not speaking so as to not interrupt other people who may be sharing. You can put up your hand if you want to speak and we'll get to you as soon as possible. Please respect each other's opinions, even and especially if you don't agree with them. And then please try to minimize any disruptions that may be happening. So for example, if you're able to put your phone on silent or vibrate, that would be much appreciated. And then just to respect and maintain privacy, we'd ask you to keep all identifying information confidential, including your young person's name, teachers' names, or staff names at a school. So when thinking of the signs that your child or teen might be struggling with their mental health, these are some statements that may help us feel more confident in knowing when it's okay to ask for support. So difficulty with things like anxiety and mood are experiences we all have from time to time, and it can be challenging to determine if a problem is simply a typical reaction, or maybe if there's something more serious going on that requires extra support or treatment. Distinguishing between a mental illness and age-appropriate emotions attached to things like puberty, changes in routine, or even environment can be tricky at times. For younger children, problems can go undiagnosed because they don't always express their feelings and thoughts in a way that adults can respond to. So we may start paying attention to these things. So things like your child or teen tells you that they're feeling sad or anxious a lot, changes in their behavior or emotions that seem out of proportion, even with their current circumstances. Some examples of that could include angry or upset outbursts, sensing a depressed mood or reflecting that they are experiencing a depressed mood, and then a sense of panic. The changes we may notice last for a sustained period of time. So that could be more than a week long. It's something that's happening for quite a long period of time for a young person. And then the changes seem to interfere with your child or teen's thoughts, feelings, or even daily functions. So some examples of that include maybe they don't enjoy the activities that they used to really like. They have a hard time engaging in those activities in a way that they used to. Then the changes last most of the day, every day. So again, not just the same period of time, like weeks or longer, but also throughout the day, they go back to these feelings. They maybe are sharing that they're feeling this way throughout most of their typical day. And then if you find your child expresses thoughts of hurting themselves or engaging in suicidal behavior, please seek help from a mental health professional immediately. And in case of an emergency, so if you or someone else is experiencing a mental health or substance use emergency, please call 911 or go to the emergency room of your local hospital as soon as possible. Even in these unusual times, it's really important to get immediate help that you may need, or the young person you have in your life may need. These people are ready and available to help. And if you're not sure if it's an emergency or you just need to talk through a situation, please know that Telehealth Ontario is available as well. Their number is 1-866-797-0000, or the distress line or mobile crisis team in your area. We'll be sharing more information about crisis and distress lines and community supports at the end of this presentation. So now when we're thinking of what supports are available to your child and what supports are available through your school community. So the team always centers around the child or youth that is at the center of this. And these are all the people that are happy and excited and engaged in supporting that person. At a school level, we can see a child's teachers, their guidance counselors, their educational assistants, their early childhood educators, special needs assistants, student success counselors, vice principals, and principals. We also see other school staff. So sometimes young people have a really strong connection with a caretaker or an office administrator at their school site. These are all people ready and happy to help your young person. Our team also expands in towards our professional support services. So psychology, social work, speech language pathology, child and youth services, occupational therapy and physiotherapy, and behavior analysis, and as well as community agencies. Today, we really want to focus more on professional support services. Sometimes we refer to ourselves as PSS staff. So PSS staff are a part of the Toronto District School Board. We're employed staff through the board that are able to support any student in any school community. It includes the list of social workers and attendance counselors, psychology, child and youth services, speech and language pathology, BCBAs, occupational therapy, and physiotherapy. And again, we're all part of the Toronto District School Board, and we're all able to help in different school communities. Some of the things that we do, and all of our jobs are a little different, we're going to be talking about that more in detail today. But what kind of supports you can expect from us include consultations with parents and caregivers, as well as with teachers and staff in a school, counseling supports, assessment, accessing and provision of community and school resources, so sharing community agency information, providing referrals sometimes. We also help coordinate services at times, so connecting a young person to agencies that may be beneficial for them. Bereavement support related to grief. We also help with restorative justice work, sometimes restorative circle work, crisis and trauma support when a crisis may occur at a school, transition planning as a young person moves throughout their school journey, and the implementation of different recommendations.
We'll start off with the first one, a group that I'm a part of with social work and attendance. And all schools in the TDSB have a social worker assigned to them, from the elementary schools up into high school. So there is that support available at every school, and it's all voluntary support. So our role is helping students and families and teachers and administrators to support a student's mental health and well-being. It's really, how can we help out to help them achieve and be their very best at school, right? So maybe, and looking and combining an anti-oppressive and mental health lens to understand the barriers a student may be experiencing in their personal, social, or broader environment. Because we all know for our lives all intersect, right? So maybe what's happened personally on the weekend can impact how they're doing at school on the Monday. When your student is experiencing undue stress in their lives, this impacts functioning at school. So social workers and attendance counselors work to help students overcome these obstacles to achieve their full potential. So it's a role that's very much working together with the student, the family, the teacher. Sometimes our role as social work is just really working with the parent and supporting them in strategies and ways of helping their child get to school on time, or having trouble with friendships, or finding community agencies. It's a role that's pretty amenable. We work on a common goal together, and work towards that goal together. And we do have a website that we'll be sharing at the end as well.
So now I'm going to talk about psychology, and just as Laura mentioned, psychology staff, we are also assigned to all different schools through the school board. Our services include psychologists, psychological associates, and psychoeducational consultants. So you'll often hear these terms used interchangeably, and it's just important for you to know that we all do the same job in the school board. And we also all have specialized training in child development, learning, and mental health and well-being. We provide consultations to schools, classrooms, and families. We also provide counseling and can help link families with appropriate supports. We also provide comprehensive psychological assessments if it's felt that this type of information will be helpful for understanding a student's needs and the factors that are underlying any difficulties or challenges that they might be having, so we can better target our supports and services to support these students. The recommendations from our assessments are often incorporated into students' individual education plans and learning plans to support their learning and things like attention and focus, self-regulation, and also social and emotional needs. We are regulated health professionals, so we are able to diagnose a variety of conditions, which can also help provide access to supports and services. For more information, we do also have a Google site, which you'll be able to access, that has answers to many commonly asked questions as well as resources.
And next is Child and Youth Services. So Child and Youth Services staff provide support to students and their families, as well as classrooms and school communities across the TDSB. Ultimately, we assist with mental health and well-being needs, academic achievement, school engagement, and social emotional development. Typically, when we think about CYS, there's two areas. So there's child and youth workers and child and youth counselors. We all work from the same principles and foundation of work. CYWs can be found in specialized classrooms, be assigned one-to-one to work with a specific student, or work with an entire school community. I worked as a CYW before I was a CYC, which is my job now. Some of the things I did was I started off in a role where I worked with a special needs assistant, and we together worked with one student who required extra support with expression and school engagement. I also used to work in a grade 1 to 3 autism program where we worked on a team with a teacher and an education assistant. And together we all used our skills to create a classroom community that kind of focused on the academics, the emotional part, and the social skill part based off of all of our training and expertise in those areas. CYCs can be found working itinerantly, like I do as well right now. I work with about 25 different school communities, and together I work with those schools to address topics like friendship building, kindness, talking about our identities, and community building. Some of that is bringing in workshop ideas that help bring these ideas together in a way that's practical and really sticks with young people in a way that makes sense for them. CYCs also can work full-time in one school, providing supports like one-to-one counseling, helping with the breakfast program. We also often facilitate student groups like queer sexuality alliances, grief groups, boys and girls groups as well. In any aspect of child and youth services practice, relationships are the foundation of our work. You can often find CYWs or CYCs painting with a young person while discussing a conflict they may have had at recess, playing cards with a group of students who are looking for an extra sense of connection at their school, or maybe even enjoying some music together with a student in a quiet area of the school while working on some goal planning ideas. Meeting youth with understanding while amplifying their ideas and perspectives is incredibly important in our practice.
I'm just going to also explain some of the other PSS services that are within their board. And the next one is speech and language pathology. And the TDSB speech language pathologists are concerned with the prevention and identification, assessment, treatment, and rehabilitation of communication, and also swallowing disorders in children. They also provide education and counseling services for students experiencing communication difficulties and swallowing difficulties. They do this in consultation with the staff and with the parents, and offering strategies and recommendations to work on. Specific areas may include speech, voice or fluency of their language and their speech, oral language, literacy, social communication, early communication, and emotional literacy. And emotional literacy is helping them find those words to express how when they're feeling that certain emotion. And again, their website is here, and they are usually involved with children at a very young age, usually junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten, when children enter school and staff and parents are noticing and maybe there's a delay in communication or speech. And then our next group of colleagues is occupational therapy and physiotherapy. In this group, they provide support to students and school teams through a variety of strategies, including consultation, assessment, classroom-based programming, and professional development to maximize the student's function, participation, and inclusion in the school setting. They collaborate with school teams, families, multidisciplinary professionals inside the board and outside of the board, and community partners. So they have their list of what it includes, but not limited to looking at providing support around activities of daily living, eating, dressing, toileting, hygiene, fine and gross motor skills, mobility and transportation, sensory processing, self-regulation, health and wellness, social skills, play skills, work habits. Looking at for children who may have physical disabilities and movement, so lifts, transfers, how to do it safely and correctly, back care, ergonomics, setting up the accessibility and adaptive equipment. So they're involved in helping children get wheelchairs and walkers and measuring them and making sure that they're all appropriate. Bathroom aids, lifts, specialized software, computer hardware. There's so many areas they're involved in. And community living skills, helping the child with the teacher support and parent support of safety strategies, community navigation, and also pre-vocational skills and experiential learning. So they work, as you may get a sense here, they work with a group of our students who may be involved in smaller class placements, who have significant intellectual or physical disabilities, and really working in helping develop all these children's skills with all these areas of support that they have. They're also more recently becoming more involved on a consultation basis to schools as well, to teachers. Yeah, I can't speak to more of that, but I know they're amazing people. They think of the world in a very different way for children and helping them be successful. And then our next group, the board certified behavior analysis. And they are a part of our autism team, a part of a multidisciplinary team that has teachers, social workers, I think some psychology, some CYWs, OT, and they work in bringing expertise into the area of ABA analysis, ABA, applied behavior analysis, instructional methods. They collaborate with Toronto Autism Services and other service providers to provide the transition of students from intense behavior intervention settings into their TDSB classrooms. They work directly in the classroom to model instructional methods for teachers and support staff. They act as a resource to principals, school staff, school support teams, special education staff, instructional leaders, teachers, and parents and guardians. So they support students with autism and other students with complex, significant behavioral challenges. There's not a lot of BCBA in the school, in the board, but they do come, we can access them through the autism team. And I know we've referenced a lot about school teams, and we'll talk about that, of how that's a big part of who we are and how we're accessed. And so here we go. Yes, how do I access support at my child's school, right? And for all of you as parents, you're probably already very familiar with your child's teacher or youth teacher or school administrator. And those are the great places to start building those connections and conversations. If you have any concerns or questions or needs, or how to get more support for your child, or even just to consult with someone. So starting at that level. And then what happens is with that, the teacher can make referrals for additional supports through your local school support team. And that is a bigger meeting that happens once a month at every school. And a parent comes, it goes ahead with a parent's permission that involves the student or youth teacher, a vice principal or a principal, the special education person in the school. It might involve guidance when they're in high school. And then around the table will be speech and language pathology, psychology, and social work attached to that school. So it's sort of, I always say, sort of more thoughts, more brains around the table of how can we come up with a good plan and recommendations for the betterment of the child and their performance at school. So as it says, the discussion involving parents and school staff and older students, especially in high school, the older students will be invited in to advocate for themselves to determine which supports are most appropriate. Recommendations from the SST are for you to consider and accept or not, right? And that's the thing, that everything is always in the parents' control. They can say yes or they can say no. They can say, I can think about it. We make the offer of a possibility, and then we work with the parent as they're ready. And we do have interpreters available. If there's a crisis or an emergency situation that are of more urgent nature, sometimes these supports may be accessed outside of SST. For my role as social work and attendance, sometimes we're asked to come in and meet with a child who may be having suicidal ideation. We are not going to wait for the SST to happen to connect the social worker with the parent and the child. We would get a phone call to come to the school and meet with the child and talk with the parent immediately. So that's an example. And I should say the OT and all that, they may not be at every meeting, but they are there they're available, and that we would access them through the team as well. So once we've had the school support team meeting, the referrals made to whoever may be the identified support staff, let's say it's to speech for an assessment, right? A parent will sign off on a consent letter saying you give permission for that service provider, to contact you and just to review what are the services, answer any of your questions, and review consent and what the consent looks like of doing the service, about the file and about confidentiality and what will be involved in the service, right? And you make a plan with them. You make your goal and your plan with them at that time. If you agree to go forward, once it's determined that the service is appropriate, you provide your consent, as I said, and to the agreed upon support. Again, confidential information is shared with the school if it's relevant for supporting the students' learning and well-being. Okay. So what are the supports? Oops, sorry. That's the next person.
You can go ahead.
Yeah,
okay, so
go ahead, sorry.
So now that we've talked about the supports that are available in the school board, we want to turn our attention to the different supports that are available in the community if you are having concerns about your child or youth's mental health and well-being. So the family doctor can be a really great place to start. You might already have a good relationship with your doctor and they know you and they know your family, and it's someone who you feel you can turn and talk to. Starting with the family doctor can be good because it's also sometimes important to rule out medical factors that also could be accounting for maybe changes or behavior or other things that you're seeing. And doctors are also able to help with referrals if you do require support, and they're also can be an important point person for helping to monitor a situation. Religious and cultural leaders or religious and cultural groups, that can be a great source of support if you are having concerns. In terms of more formal mental health supports and agencies, the Toronto District School Board has compiled a quite comprehensive list. There's over 1,000 resources in this resource of culturally responsive and relevant resources that are available. And I am just going to click on the link and hope that it works so I can show you. Okay, let's see if it's going to work. Yes, okay, we're going. Okay, So as you can see here, there are a number of different tabs in this resource, and this resource, it is in the slides we're going to share with you, but it can also be accessed directly off of the Toronto District School Board website, which I'll also be showing you in a bit. Once you're in this document, you are able to search for services by location, depending on where you live in the city. And you'll see that there is information. You just click on whichever tab you're interested in. You'll find there's information about culturally responsive and relevant supports and services. There are resources for newcomer families, for youth, emergency and crisis response, as Yvonne mentioned before. If you are looking to reach out for crisis support in your community, you could check here. There's also information about legal, housing, food banks, and there are a number of resources specifically for students that do have more complex needs. Okay, let's see if I can get back to our presentation. Okay, here we go. I did also want to highlight Help Ahead. They're an important service. I do want to highlight it's a centralized phone line. So you can go to their website or call the number here, and they will connect you with the most appropriate mental health and well-being service in your area based on your needs. And on the next slide, we're going to talk about other resources that are available, and you'll also have this contact list as well. In terms of these contacts, just quickly to give you an overview, there is 211, which is a helpline that connects people to social services, programs, and community supports. Next, we have Kids Help Phone, and these are all clickable links. So once you have the slides, you can just click on each one for more information. It'll link you directly to the website. Kids Help Phone has helpful resources, skill building activities, crisis supports, counseling services, and groups that connect youth with other youth, and there are interpreter services available. This is the resource I just showed you with the culturally responsive and relevant resources. Here we have WhatsApp Walk-In, which provides immediate mental health counseling for children, youth, young adults, and their families, as well as for families with infants, and services are virtual or in person. We also have the Black Youth Helpline, which serves all youth and also responds to the need for Black youth specific service and promotes access to professional, culturally appropriate support for youth, families, and schools. In addition to having a helpline, they also can provide assessment and intervention, as well as parent and family support. Children's Mental Health Ontario has many helpful resources, and is also a service that can connect you with mental health professionals in your area. Services are virtual, by phone, and in person. They provide services for parents and caregivers as well. The Hope for Wellness Helpline offers immediate help to all Indigenous people across Canada. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They provide counseling and crisis intervention. Jack.org has many great resources for youth. Nasiha provides workshops to youth across North America, as well as web therapy sessions. They also offer texting mental health support 7 days a week for Muslim and non-Muslim youth. And Help Ahead is the resource that I already mentioned on the previous slide. So these are all really handy contacts, and they'll be right at your fingertips. So this here is a screenshot of the TDSB website that's specific to mental health and well-being. So I mentioned community supports, but I do want to highlight specifically some of the TDSB supports and resources that we have. There is a comprehensive web page that has, as you can see here, many links to different information. So there's a link, oops, hold on, for immediate support and help. There's also student resources, the culturally responsive resources I've mentioned a few times already. I did specifically want to highlight the virtual office hours, which you can see. There's a link at the bottom that will take you directly to that page of the website. So the TDSB does offer virtual office hours once a month. members of the professional support services team attend these virtual sessions. There are actually 2 sessions that occur at the same time. One is for all parents and caregivers, and there's a second office hour specific to parents and caregivers of students with complex needs that may need more specific supports and resources. So these sessions are designed to answer questions and to provide resources and supports. And some of that might include, how to access supports at your school, but may also be in the community. So how can you go about accessing community supports? This is different for each agency, so it is important to help online. And with the resources within this package, you'll be able to easily access those websites to obtain that information. We do recognize that it can be challenging and intimidating, to access these resources and to contact these agencies if you are having concerns. So relying on family and friends and asking them for support to be with you while you make a phone call, that can be a really helpful strategy to give you that support in the process. But also TDSB staff, we are here to help you, to assist you, within the school, but also we can help connect you with agencies outside of the school board. So with your permission and with your consent, as Laura talked about, we can do this with you if this is something you're interested in. I also mentioned family doctors can make referrals and they can assist with access, but these agencies do need to hear from families in order to provide service. We did want to highlight that youth are able to access services on their own. They do not need a parent involved, but it is always best if parents and caregivers can support their children if it's appropriate. But if your child or youth is feeling that they need support, they can reach out directly. And as Laura talked about as well before about confidentiality within the school board, these external agencies and these services, they are also confidential. So, that brings us to the end of the presentation. I think we do have some time for questions, but we hope that, after hearing this information, you have a better understanding of the supports that are available within the school board as well as within the community, and you have some information about how to go ahead and access these resources. But most importantly, we did really want to make sure this came through that you are not alone. That is our job and this is our passion, and this is why we are here to help and support you. So if you are having any concerns about your child or your youth, please don't hesitate to reach out for help. So I don't know if anyone else from the team has anything to add. I know we haven't already going to be sharing those slides with you in the chat. It is on a Google Doc, so you can access that, you can save it, and you can access all of the information we've just shared, as well as clicking on all of the links to find out more about the supports and services.
And for anyone who didn't see, Cheryl added in the chat box as well, Youth Mental Health Canada and their website. Thank you for adding that, Cheryl.
The resources, because the resources we've given are not exhaustive. There's so many out there, right, that we're always learning from each other. I know within our team, right, people are always emailing people of other resources or for a different need or for different communities. So there's always something. We're always learning and new.
Just to be clear, the resources that I did share, they are certainly not an exhaustive list. They are just some of the ones we wanted to highlight. So if you do click on that culturally responsive resource list, there are tons and tons and tons of resources in there as well.
So if you do have any questions, feel free you can type to us or you can use your phone, whatever you're more comfortable with, if anyone has anything they'd like to say or even any comments you might have.
Yeah, so we hope we've been able to sort of demystify about what the resources and supports are within the school board and how to access them. Because I know sometimes I meet with families and they go, And their child may be middle school saying, I had no idea that there was social work or speech or psychology available. So yeah, so we hope we can do that.
Mhm.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Yes, and
And,
thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Mhm. Okay. Guess let's see.
I will
There we
stop
go.
sharing.
Great. Yeah.
That's great
Definitely.
to
So yeah,
read, Michelle.
yeah. So definitely speak with your administration at the school for anything. Oh, I don't know who that is.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, thank you all. If nobody has any questions, you're welcome to take off. Please know that we are really grateful for your time. And if anyone's watching this recording, we're grateful that you've tuned in. And as Dana had mentioned earlier, we're here to help. We're here to work together. We are on your team and your child's team.
Mhm. Hi, Jen. Is it Jen? You're just coming in?
I'm wondering if maybe we can share the resource one more time in the chat, just in case Jen wants to access our slides from today's presentation. You'll be able to find that in the link.
Mhm. Yeah. Looks like they're having difficulty with audio.